Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rady Rahban, and I am ecstatic because we are blessed to have someone I think most of you will know, and that I've gotten to know even better recently because I was so lucky to be on her podcast. We have Jillian Barberie on with us, and she has blessed us because she has carved out this time for us to be able to kind of chat with her. She was in the midst of doing 100 things, taking care of her daughter, this, that, the other, and bam, we squeezed her in here. So listen, I want everyone to listen carefully because this is going to be exciting and titillating. So welcome, Jillian.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Rahban. And I'm so sorry that I am in my PJs, but I had to get up at 4 this morning, take my daughter to LAX for a field trip. They're going to Washington. I came home and I thought that I would be able to, get up at 9. I literally just woke up. But
cat nap.
I am awake. awake.
You look fantastic for just getting up from a cat nap. And we love having you. And I think the whole actually part of the joy of this process and the show is the uncensored, unfiltered,
I sure am.
et cetera. So we love you the way you are. So first thing I want to do is for those people who may not know you, I want you to give me a little bit of, I hate giving people's bios because I never do them justice. Why don't you tell me a little bit of your career, and then we can talk about some of the interesting things I think are going to be useful for people who are listening and they want to know. So tell me about your career a little bit, because I know you've done a ton of things.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I have a journalism degree and I started out in Canada, but then I transferred to Miami and worked for a television news station. And then after that, I got a job in LA when I was 25.
Was that with the TV? Was that with the news?
I was always working in news with my journalism degree, and I did weather. And then I got a job at Fox in Los Angeles, and that really sort of catapulted my career in the sense that I started getting offers from sitcoms and dating shows, and then the NFL came along, and I was doing 5 TV shows at once. I was on, and it was exhausting, but it was amazing. And I had the opportunity to meet some great people and work on national shows, and I always kept Good Day LA as the backbone.
Yes, Good Day LA. That's where people are going to know you most, right? Is that where people are
the NFL, as far as a big audience, because that went across the country. But yes, Good Day LA for sure. I was there 20 years, and I was really fortunate in my career. I'm still at HSN. I'm going back on this week, and it's a home shopping network, which I'm selling loungewear, which is fabulous because that's all I do now. Anyway, so I, through the NFL, I used to have a mammogram party at the Four Seasons with my girlfriends, and it started when I was 40, and we would call it mammograms and mimosas, and there was just like maybe 4 or 5 of us, and Lisa Ashley, who's a good friend of mine, she's the one who actually created it. And on the 12th year, it was my turn, and I had breast cancer, and they knew that day, and then we had to get verified, biopsied, and we did. And it was aggressive. So I was aggressive. I booked a double mastectomy that day. And I think it was 2 weeks from diagnosis until my operation. And then that was in November. The chemo all started the next year. I did chemo and radiation, and I'm in remission. And so I'm so thrilled.
Amazing. How many years ago was the breast cancer and the surgery and the radiation and all that?
2 years ago was the breast cancer. 1 year ago was the radiation and the chemo
treatment. Okay. Well, that's amazing. And as everyone knows, my sister is a double mastectomy survivor. So what I love to do is, since you have such an incredible journey, experience, knowledge base, I'd like to cut this up into 2 segments.
Yes.
The first segment being a young, attractive, because I know a lot of people also know you for your swimsuits, at least. NFL
the weight loss, the Nutrisystem. Yes.
So here you are, a young, attractive journalist in this world that's often a male environment. And, I want to talk about the pressures because, the young girls who often, 80% of my patient population are females, although 20% are males. 80% of the females are under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
pressure of to look a certain way. Their body needs to be a certain way. You're on TV, you're on camera, et cetera. And the second half of the show, I'd love to chat about breast cancer, overcoming it, sense of self, your image, also having come from that background to this one,
Sure.
and all those things. So let's get into what was entailed, the raw and sort of the inside information about being a young, attractive female on TV, the pressures. I can't imagine you just kind of got up and you were just like, oh, there must have been some things that you had to do to stay at the top of your game. What were they?
Well, I was 25. Like I said, I didn't even think along those lines. I also thought I was really funny. Like I was voted valedictorian and the funniest in my class. So I never really placed a lot of emphasis on looks. I was very fortunate in that, oh, if you find me attractive, I'll be in your magazine. But I never augmented myself. My breasts were mine. In all those commercials, I lost all that weight. Everything was very natural. Well, it was all natural. When I was in my 40s, I worked at Good Day LA from 40 to 46. And that's when I started to do a Botox and I started to do my lips. And that was pretty much it. My breasts were always mine, contrary to popular belief. They were real. And when I got breast cancer, I had them taken away. And now I have, I have implants. They did the correctional surgery. And I don't have nipples. I'm not a vain person, so I haven't even thought about getting 3D. I'm just like, I'm lazy. I'm a mom of two. I'm single mom. And it's not a priority, but I know people that have gone that route and they look amazing. I never felt pressure. I know that I worked with a lot of women who did a lot of stuff and they, good for them. They looked amazing. For myself, it just wasn't my route. I've never put that pressure on myself because I was fortunate enough to work at a TV station for 20 years where it wasn't based on just looks. It was like you had to have your journalism degree. You had to know what was going on in the world. It wasn't like I was an Instagram model that had to look perfect. So I dressed myself. I did my own makeup on that show. I was pretty low maintenance, to be honest. Same with the NFL. But it all changed when I had breast cancer because you lose your hair. You take it for granted. You're just like, oh, yeah, I have nice hair. I'm very lucky. You take it for granted that, oh, yeah, I have nice breasts and they're natural, whatever. I turned Playboy down 4 times because, it just wasn't my gig. Do I wish I had those pictures now? Yeah, I do. Because it was a natural, beautiful body, but it is what it is. I would have been fine.
Well, wonderful. So then there you have it. I mean, what it shows you is that there's individuals, I would argue rare, who are in an environment, albeit it's not like you're talking about 80 years ago. I mean, this is all about a 20-year journey where you're in the public eye. You're considered an attractive, bright individual. You are known for, yes, your journalism, but also, let's be honest, you were an attractive individual. And you happen to be one of those rare individuals for whom you were like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. But as well as I do, because we touched on it during your podcast, the average person doesn't have that type of personality. The average person is affected, is insecure, and then they feel these pressures. And so what we have now is a new generation.
Yeah.
We have a new generation by which they are seeing millions, not thousands, millions of images constantly in which they compare themselves. Now, not only are these images unrealistic, they're not real. So the girl with the tiny little waist with the big ass and the big boobs, she doesn't exist. Forget about if she did and you tried to acquire it. It just doesn't exist because it's filtered. So what I'm trying to do is give, so you can't change who you are. If you're born sort of chill and easygoing like you are, that's a blessing. But the majority of people aren't like that. So I want to kind of get your take on the women in your generation that were under these pressures and because we want to ultimately give advice. That's the goal.
Well, so for me, Instagram wasn't huge when I was on Good Day LA. It wasn't like these ridiculous, like I might have been the person that you aspired to be like, maybe like, maybe it was realistic because I wasn't this glam, model who had her makeup done every day and was out with, I don't know, I got up at 5 a.m. and I was glamorous by 7, but I did it myself. And, I think nowadays it's a whole different bag. There are people that are famous for being just gorgeous. And I know many of them, or they become that Instagram fame. That's a whole other, like, I'm not in it. It doesn't even affect me. But when I was in that business, even in, like one of my really good friends is Heather Locklear. Even in that world of beauty, and she was one of the most beautiful women in the world, she's got a great sense of humor. But nowadays I think it's way more pressure, and I think Heather would agree, because they're so, like you said, these are unrealistic. Back in Heather's day, they might have touched up a photo, or in my, what if I did Maxim or FHM, those magazines for men, they might have touched up a photo. Now it's what you said, it's these huge boobs, these big asses. It's like they can actually edit themselves to look. There's a filter on Instagram right now. I haven't done it. It's not my thing, but it makes the woman look absolutely perfect. And so these women are on my TikTok and they're all talking. I'm like, damn, she's hot. Wow, she's really hot. She's really hot. And then there's like the opposite, where the girl comes on and she's really beautiful and she's like, oh, do you think I look like this? And then she kind of screeches outside the line of the filter. Yeah, and she's like, this is what I really look like. And so what's happened is she gets more hits than the other girls.
Yeah,
right?
the pendulum is going to ultimately swing, and we're going to get to a point where being natural is going to be interesting again, just like the person who doesn't have a tattoo is going to be interesting, because it's going to, the pendulum swings. But I think the thing is that as individuals, as I hate to use the word influencer, but if you're in a public eye and you had exposure and people follow you and listen to you, we have an opportunity to say stuff. How old are your children?
Now they are 11 and 13, and my daughter sees it a lot. Yeah.
Perfect. So my nieces were, now the youngest is 17, but she was 13, 14. She's on TikTok, like Schmicktalk, whatever it's called. And so, I'm seeing girls that are like, I want a brow lift. Well, why the hell do you want a brow lift? Well, because Bella Hadid had a brow lift. Yeah. Who?
The fox eye.
Yeah. I want to have this look and that look, and I want threads, and I want et cetera, et cetera. And so, I think especially as a woman like you who was in that world, it was interesting because my wife was a model, and my wife always makes this comment. She goes, if you showed up to the casting call and did not look identical to your photo, they kick you out.
Oh my God.
Which was so fascinating. She's like, there was no editing. If you were not exactly the photo, you were the person you sent the photo of. And now that it doesn't even exist. I mean, there's a huge world of unraveling these fakeness. Like, I follow accounts where women show, if I stand this way, I look like a supermodel. If I stand this way, I look like, oh my God, I just had 6 kids. Yes. And so those accounts are super popular because now we're people like me and you and everyone's like, yo, this is not realistic. But there's women with eating disorders, girls that are doing all kinds of crazy shit. Sure. I comment on KTLA where 3 women went to Mexico, and one of them died and 2 into the ICU because they went and got a BBL in Mexico for $1,000.
I saw that. Oh my God. I get they want to save money, but that's so sketchy and scary.
It's not about saving money. It's about, no. It's about wanting something you can't afford. It's different. It's different. So the difference is, I want to buy this bag. I'm going to get this other bag because it's a little less expensive, or I'm going to get a knockoff. That's issue number 1. The second issue is, I must have this procedure and I can't afford it. So therefore I go to wherever the hell I can afford it. That's the driving factor. The driving factor is this urge, this must have. I have to have a BBL.
Okay, what does BBL stand for?
A BBL is a Brazilian butt lift, which is the basic principle was removing fat from places and injecting it in the butt. And the procedure that has caused the single most number of deaths in plastic surgery is that procedure. Oh my God. Across the globe. I'm talking Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Miami, etc. And that's not the subject matter, but the subject matter is this need that I, at 18, at 22, at 25, I need to have this done so badly that I'm willing to do what I know is wrong, which is get up and go to a foreign country because I can get it there where I can't get it here. And so the issue at hand is not why did they go to Mexico? The issue is, why did she need it?
Yeah.
Why does she feel that if I don't get this fat stuck in my butt, why am I inadequate? Why am I not attractive?
Exactly. And I think for people, the expectation is so unrealistic now that you can do a lot in your little bedroom of editing and making yourself perfect, but eventually you're going to have to get out in the real world if you're not making your money from the internet.
But that's what the problem is. That's exactly the driving force. So where does the issue occur? There's a girl. I'm a girl. I want to make a living. It's like modern day new prostitution. It's just a different kind of thing. I stay home and all I do is take 1,000 images of myself in bikinis and underwears and different poses. I put it out there. I get 5 million followers. I make a living. And then the girls who are in Idaho and Wisconsin and someplace in Scotland, et cetera, that are not those girls, look at these images, then create the mental image that that's the image that I need to have. The men who watch these images think, wow, this girl's super hot. And then they expect that of their girlfriends, wives, et cetera. And then the disease process occurs. Then you have a bunch of people who are suicidal and on medications because they don't look like the girl who's making money flying around in private jets, who actually isn't flying around anywhere. It's just a fake jet in her house.
It's insane. Oh my God. I'm just thinking about this whole idea of catfishing because of what you just said. There are a lot of girls that are what they're doing is they're trying to flip the script. So this girl shows herself and she's like a 12 out of 10. She's absolutely stunning. She's from Canada. And then, you know, she shows herself without makeup and she's covered in acne and she doesn't put the filter on. And men went crazy. The women were like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, show us your makeup tips. And the men went ballistic. They're like, you're catfishing, you're lying, this is not you. And I thought, well, isn't that, you know, women every day do things to, you know, augment or to change to make themselves more attractive. And usually it's for men. Or they say it's for themselves and the whatever.
Yeah, but it's for the other sex. I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's to attract the other. Yeah. And so a whole other, you're right. There's just so many layers and levels of, I think in today's generation, I'm very lucky because my daughter is 13 and she goes to a nice school. And some of the girls, you know, she's going to high school. And I said, oh, do people drive like they're, you know, really nice cars? She's like, yeah, they're all over the place, Porsches. And she goes, but, you know, I go, well, what do you want for your first car? And she said, I love Jettas. And I was like, oh, nice.
Oh, that was my first car.
Was it?
Yeah, my first car was a Volkswagen Jetta. It was a used car. It was a manual car. I remember exactly what it was gray with Recaro seats. And I was devastated when it got stolen in college.
No.
Did it? Stolen. It got stolen and it was stripped to the bones in some alley somewhere.
That hurts.
Yeah, well,
I grew up in Canada and I had my dad was an electrician, my mom was a nurse. So I grew up with rich girls and I was never jealous. And so I'm really, or like, I always thought one day I'm going to be on TV in Los Angeles and everyone used to laugh at me, but I didn't care. And my daughter's kind of the same attitude, like whatever, you know, good for them. And she's got such a strong constitution and spirit. So we do look at some of those pictures and for her, she knows that it's fake because she's seen my life and television and she's been behind the scenes and she's been on sitcoms and she knows it's kind of it's a whole other world, this La La Land. But she also lives on Instagram and TikTok and she sees all of those filters and she you know, I'm very fortunate that she's not super influenced. Now when she's 16, will she want, like, I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I think the problem is at the end of the day, the only way to deal with this, you're not going to get rid of Instagram, you're not going to get rid of TikTok, there'll be another one, and it's not going to go away. I mean, every day there are procedures being created to go after this generation, whether it's threads, whether it's fillers, whether it's lip lifts, whether it's all this nonsense. So the only recourse is this dialogue, is for me and you and other people that people want to listen to have a alternative dialogue for people to hear. And then you hope as a result of that, it balances out the nonsense. And that's the only thing you can do. So listen, Jillian, we're going to go and take a quick break. We're going to come back. When we come back, I want to chat a little bit about breast cancer, surviving breast cancer. Okay, so here you go from being this individual who's on TV with this gorgeous hair and these amazing boobs and all those things. And now you are equally beautiful, but in a different way. And I want to hear your take on it. So everyone's going to want to definitely join us after the break as we discover more about Jillian. Join us after this quick break. Welcome back to the second half of our, I think, interesting and exciting podcast with Jillian Barberie. If you are tuning in, you know that we're going to be chatting a little about breast cancer. Jillian, you are a breast cancer survivor, as is my sister. And first and foremost, congratulations. I think there's a huge congratulatory or mazel tov associated with, they say we fight it. It is a fight. You got to roll up your sleeves and get in there. But more importantly, I also want to talk about image. This is a show about plastic surgery. And we want to talk about the idea. And I know one of the things is you have a very interesting perspective because you're very sort of, easygoing and you're not affected, so to speak. But I can't say that's the case with everyone.
No, I
So
know.
here you go from being this 25-year-old journalist, yet beautiful, as you said, beautiful breasts, beautiful hair, and all those things, and now you undergo breast cancer reconstruction and this, that, the other, chemo and radiation, and now you don't have those elements.
Mhm.
And the idea of self-image, how we see ourselves. So let's talk about that. So you got diagnosed 2 years ago, yes?
That's right. And I was very aggressive. Like I said, I called the Beverly Hills clinic I brought one of my best friends to. And she had a lumpectomy and some radiation about a year before that. I didn't know that I'd be going down that road after her, but I called them up and I said, I want to book a double mastectomy. So they have a sort of all-in-one department. They have the reconstructive, they have your cancer oncologist, your surgeon oncologist, and then they have the reconstruction woman. Well, that woman, I went and had a consultation, but I never got back to her. And so the day of the surgery, you're going to hate this. I get rolled in. My cancer oncologist surgeon is there. And my reconstruction surgeon walks in and she goes, "Hi, remember me?" And I'm like, "I do." And she said, "Yeah, I'm here to do your breast reconstruction. And you never called me back. You never told me what you wanted. You never gave me a size." And I was like, "Oh." So I went on my cell phone and I wrote Jillian Barberie bikini pics. And I go, just like that. And I gave her the phone and she's like, "You are the weirdest celebrity client I've ever had." Because most women down to the, like, they'll call her, they'll send pictures. I just, to be honest, I didn't even want to get the implants. I
Okay,
was like,
well, so let's chat about that a little bit, okay?
yeah,
Because the reality is that you recognize that that's unusual. And that's
yeah,
unusual.
I do now.
That's unusual in that whether you're a celebrity, whether you're a model, whether you're just an average person, we all as humans identify normally with ourselves internally and externally. And the external part is how we see ourselves. We go stand in front of the mirror and we're like, what is this goddamn bag on? Oh my God, what is that, an acne? I mean, it's not unique to models. It's not unique to celebrities. It's a human trait. And so for an individual who went and had arguably better than average hair, better than average body, better than average breasts, to undergo in one full swoop the removal of their hair because of chemo and removal of their breasts. The reality is that for a lot of people, there's a huge adjustment. And for some people, they never adapt. So let's talk less so about why you're lucky because you just have that person.
I did go through that though, Doc. I would look in the mirror and I was like, who's that monster?
So let's give people some advice. That's what the purpose is.
Well,
how do you manage looking in the mirror and knowing you have these images of yourself on the wall or in the internet where you looked one way, and now because of this disease process and the treatment, your hair is gone? Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Well, they forget to tell you. It's like, it's not, I just pictured my hair coming out. They forget to tell you your brows, your lashes, every hair on your body is gone. And so it was so much faster. Like, I always looked at the positive. And the reason that I'm like this is simple. It's my kids. I don't have, my children trump my fucking vanity, period, bar none, the end. I am a Canadian girl at heart. Hollywood was always a distant dream to me. I never went, oh, I'm going to go and get fake tits and go out to Hollywood. No, it was never like that. I just got my journalism degree. I was lucky enough to have great babies. And that's why I wanted my breasts gone. I was like, just take them. I don't need I don't give a shit. I've already given that career. I've breastfed my kids. I've been in men's magazines. I did say no to Playboy 4 times, but I didn't say no for vain or whatever. Like, I'm above Playboy. They offered a lot of money. It was because I would get fired from Good Day LA, and that was my bread and butter.
So the reality is, first of all, the two are not mutually exclusive. You can still have beautiful babies and be an amazing mom and a super mom and still want to be like hot to yourself. Yeah. So, okay. So what do you do when you look in the mirror and you have no breasts?
I didn't do it because they said to me, no, you are going to want them on the other side. Trust me. And it will be easier for you to adjust to this, new sort of way of life, because I'm on a pill now for 5 more years. And it's just going to change. Your hormones are changing. Everything's changing thanks to this. And I was already in that middle of that change. So for me, I'm glad that I did it, but I'll tell you what I wouldn't do again is get my breast done quickly and then do radiation, because one is so hard. It's where I got the radiation. It's and encapsulated, and it's extremely hard. And I can't, that I don't like. The other one is fine. It is what it is. It doesn't have a nipple. It's like, whatever. Like, I don't sit and look in the mirror like I used to, where you'd put on a bathing suit or yeah. Uh, Um, so will I get this fixed eventually? Yeah, I guess. But I would say to the women out there, I also went through a depression. And so I think it was really driven by all of those things that you're saying, where I was looking in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, like everything has changed, and it changed overnight. I mean, I was wearing a bikini up until I was 50, no problem, and had younger guys, 30s and 40s, hitting on me. Just everything changed after breast cancer, in the sense that now I'm being pushed into this life that, of pills and hormones, and not getting periods anymore, and having this hard breast. And it made me very depressed. And it wasn't like oh, I used to be hot, no I'm not. It was more along the lines of, what the fuck is happening to me? Like, I don't feel like myself anymore. It's making me really depressed. Whereas when I was a size 2, you'd go and throw anything on and everything looked easy and good, and you didn't have to, and then, so I didn't go through chemo and lose a bunch of weight. I was honestly thinking, oh, maybe I'll lose weight.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
was always
because
working
somehow, I
on.
mean, my sister did chemo and her skin became immaculate. I
Okay,
mean, she had the most beautiful skin that she's ever had in her life.
I'm with your
So
sister. People used to say, "Oh my gosh, what are you
look,
doing to your skin?" And I'd say, "Chemo." I don't know, but yes,
yeah,
I'm
I
with your
mean,
sister.
there's a few silver linings. I wouldn't run out if you're listening and go get chemo for better skin. But I mean, I think the reality is, and what the takeaway message is, and I always try to like encapsulate things for the
Yeah,
people out there listening. And maybe the take home message is that at the end of the day, we're built differently. I can definitely tell that, Jillian, you're built unique in that regard, in that you have the ability to separate. First of all, you have the ability not to take yourself too seriously, which is important, because at the end of the day, scars and body image is important, but it isn't everything.
yeah,
And secondly is that, so for some people, they have the luxury of their way their brain is wired, that they can separate the two apart. Like for me personally, I'm a vain person, and we use the word vain to mean negative. No, vain means I actually care the way I look. And some people are not vain people. For
yeah,
example, you strike me as not a vain person. Neither of them are good or bad. They're like saying short and tall, black hair,
100%.
blonde hair.
But
The
I also
reality is,
think,
if you are a vain person, you're going to care more so than if you're an unvain person. But
no, and I so agree with you. I don't think I was vain when I was on TV. I looked a certain way, but it came very easy to me. But my old co-host used to say that. He's like, "You don't do sit-ups and you have abs. It's like not fair." But then you get hit with something like this. And I want to say, the difference between when I was going through not the cancer but the television career, my career was based on my brains and my brawn, and I would show up physically and I would do the job. Nowadays you can sit in your home and filter yourself and make yourself perfect, and then you have to live up to that when you go out there. So it's a whole different set of pressure, and reality is a very different animal. So I think the pressure is on girls today 100 or 1,000 times more than it was for me. And
agreed.
yeah, so if you're making your money, like I made my money as a journalist on a morning show. If these girls are making their money on, TikTok or Instagram, then they have to be perfect. Then they do perhaps need to look a little bit like they do in their pictures, and they need to augment, they need to modify. I just never felt, that need. I would never have had fake breasts if I didn't have breast cancer. But that's why people like you are so great, because you are honest. You're not going to sell somebody a false, because at the end of the day, you deal with a lot of women that come in with, they'll have a picture of like a Bella Hadid, like you said, I want to look like that. Okay, well, there's only a certain amount, physically that you can do. They have to have a realistic end
Yeah.
goal, end game.
It's going to be recurring because it's what's permeating our society today.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
as a plastic surgeon who deals with aesthetics, it's impossible for me to have a conversation about any subject matter
Yeah,
without the social media pressures, the decay of our image. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about looking great, being hot, all those things. And to each their own. There are many different shades of attractive. I'm just talking about the limitations and the mental anguish and pressures that are too far too gone. to the point that you need to go to another country and die. So, and I like having these conversations, and, I appreciate your candor, and it's been a joy to have you, because what it does is it shows people a perspective that maybe you don't need to be so wound up and take yourself so seriously. And maybe you can have a successful career, and maybe there are other things that you can be known for, like your brains and your brawn and your journalism, etc.
Right. I think the other stuff was just the icing on the cake. If they thought that I was attractive, it was great, but it wasn't, it was like somebody saying, I'm a big fan of yours, or I hate you. I tried to not make the fan thing make my day, or the person who hated me break my day.
Well, the only difference now is that they would have to send you mail, and now they'll send you a direct message that they hate you, and you're getting 1,000 likes and 1,000 bad comments. The difference is, back in the day, you didn't live and die by what other people said, because it wasn't coming at you 100 miles an hour.
You're so right. When I was, my last 2 years at Fox, I was on Twitter, and they were kind of downplaying Twitter. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, oh no, yes, it is. And I was always the youngest on the set. So I was always, a little bit hipper in that respect. And I kept saying to Fox, you guys have to get your own Twitter page. And so they couldn't understand how I had like 300,000 and they had 6,000 as a company. And I'm like, it's simple. You engage the people. So now I notice that people on TikTok if somebody says, I hate you, whatever, they're like, oh, I must address this. And I just find that so funny, because coming up in television, you're always going to have people that hate you and people that love you, but you don't have to address everybody.
So I want to wrap this up with some take-home messages. Take-home message number one is that, in addition to beauty, there are other aspects of your life that can really enhance you. Today, most of the young girls that at least I'm communicating to, those that I'm talking to that are on Instagram and TikTok, seem to feel that beauty is the driving force. Mm-hmm. Number two is that, here's a woman who had all the beauty and aesthetics, and now, as a result of a disease process, has things that are different. And if you don't take it so seriously, it won't create the disaster or the depression and ruin your life. And the last is that, if you're going to put yourself out there in these environments, social media, what have you, you cannot play to the commentary of all the people. And that, at the end of the day, you're going to have people that hate you, love you, etc. You're putting yourself out there, and you got to take it all with a grain of salt. So thank you so much for your perspective and sharing us your thoughts. And I hope whoever's listening is a young woman can take something and say, oh, okay, well, you know what? F it. That's really the goal in this, is just F it. It's not all that important.
If you're on Instagram and that's going to be your, you better take care of yourself and all that. And I hope you don't end up with breast cancer. But, if you've got other things that you do in your life, like I did with journalism and doing a morning show, then people will see your personality. They might see beauty too, but they see personality, and maybe that enhances your beauty. Or maybe you're not their type. You can't be everybody's type, right? Yeah, so, at the end of the day, you just have to be happy with who you are. And for me, it was surviving and being here for my kids. And now it's time to get back to me.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate it. Thank you. All right, well, that wraps up another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Thank you, as always, Jillian, for being on and being so you.
Thank you.
For those of you listening, make sure to subscribe, download, share, tell everybody give it, our information to the gardener, and make sure to tune in next week, because I'm sure whatever we'll be talking about will be really interesting. All right, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor. That was great.